Sean O'Malley vs. Aljamain Sterling, a practical and technical breakdown by Kelvin Lee Tran. In this video essay, I will be analyzing every single aspect of the fight game to find out who will be walking home with a UFC championship belt this August 19th. Let's start with weight cut. Aljamain Sterling walks around at a whopping 175 pounds, nearly 10 or even 20 pounds more than that of your average bantamweight. When you deplete your body this severely, you will oftentimes deal with cramps and or energy deficiency, even after rehydrating. So big weight cuts are usually undesirable. But some special athletes are simply born with the gene that allows their body to effectively rehydrate and get back as close to normal as possible. But no matter what, one thing that is always effective when cutting that much weight is your chin. The brain is the last place that the human body regenerates fluid, making it extremely easy to be rattled from brain trauma. Examples include Alex Pereira against Adesanya, Gilbert Burns against Dan Hooker, and Cody Garbrandt at 125, all suffered from this undeniable fact. Coincidentally, Aljo's last couple challengers have all been more interested in holding him down than actually hitting him. Striking. We all know Aljo has elite grappling, but his striking is certainly not finely tuned to the same degree. Although seemingly effective against his last couple title challengers because of what some fighters are referring to as unorthodox striking, Aljamain Sterling severely lacks a firm grasp of kickboxing fundamentals. He dips his head forward when rolling, he turns away from his opponent when slipping, he switches stances when circling. All beginner mistakes they teach you not to do in Kickboxing 101. Although he was able to get away with this against his last few opponents, who were grapplers, also lacking a core fundamental grasp of kickboxing principles and were not able to capitalize, and Petr Yan was neutralized due to Aljo's grappling, Sean O'Malley will not let Aljo get away with these blunders. For example, Aljo often likes to slip his head to the inside when fighting against a mirror stance opponent. He did this against Marlon Moraes, a much less technically inclined striker than Sean O'Malley, whether to evade or shoot for a takedown, and was knocked unconscious. For a seasoned striker like Sean O'Malley, recognizing a mistake like this is child's play, and will be easy pickings for a back leg circular kick right for Aljo's head, among many other available options for Sean. The best striker Aljamain Sterling has fought before is Corey Sandhagen. Sean O'Malley is often compared to Corey Sandhagen due to their similar builds and striking dominance. Corey and many other fighters have been able to clip Aljamain Sterling on more than one occasion, but only a select few have actually been able to beat him. The main difference between Sean O'Malley and these other fighters, including Marlon Moraes, who knocked Aljo out, is sheer power. Contrary to what his physical appearance may imply, Sean is a knockout specialist, with highlight reels of putting people out cold and walking off. If Sterling gets caught by Sean, he will not be able to shake it off the same way he did to his other opponents. Wrestling. Against popular belief, Aljamain Sterling does not have a high level of pure wrestling. He is very proficient at catching kicks and initiating single legs off the catch, as well as smothering opponents against the fence, but Sterling struggles to take his opponents down in open space. Sean is among the elite of mixed martial arts strikers, and arguably one of, if not the most diverse and creative, being highly proficient in both orthodox and southpaw, punching and kicking. Sean has a seemingly endless repertoire of strikes, looks, and feints at his disposal. Aljamain Sterling simply does not have the striking pedigree to predict or see Sean O'Malley's shots, never mind being able to catch one. Sean O'Malley has gone on air saying he refuses to fight in the UFC's smaller Apex Octagon, instead choosing only to fight in the big stadium version. This is because his striking style is highly dependent on in and out movement and evasion while keeping his opponents on the end of his punch. With this extra space, Sean will have no problem circling away from the cage. Sean is one of the few people in the world able to produce real power while moving backwards. If Aljo decides to recklessly close in range to chase a takedown, he will be met with the canvas floor. Aljo will have next to no means of taking the fight to the ground, or at the very least will have to sacrifice intensely to do so, whether it's damage or stamina. Grappling. If somehow the fight does indeed go to the ground, I believe Sean O'Malley has some of the most underrated grappling in the UFC. Wrestling being his favorite sport to train and participating in multiple jiu-jitsu competitions since 2019 and even winning by finish, Sean will have a lot more to offer Aljo on the ground than it may seem at first glance. Arguably, Aljo's greatest weapon is his back take to body triangle. He often secures his position when opponents give their back from a panicked, weak turtle when escaping mount and attempting to get back to their feet, as demonstrated by Petr Yan and TJ Dillashaw. This is when Aljo will sink his hooks in. Sean O'Malley has shown he is very comfortable playing off his back. Rather than rolling over, Sean O'Malley very often opts for throwing out multiple submissions to cover himself as he shrimps towards the cage where he will begin to base up. Coaching and corner. Sean O'Malley's coach Tim Welch is among the greatest minds in MMA. 5 years his elder, and with experience from previously competing in MMA, he is extremely quick on his feet and analytical, being able to pick apart his opponent's habits and tendencies even from the sidelines, and able to effectively and concisely deliver this information to Sean and let him know what to do next. The belief in Tim Welch from Sean O'Malley is unlike any other student-mentor relationship. Close in age, Sean treats Tim more like a peer and best friend than a superior, while still maintaining the utmost respect for his teacher. Sean prefers to keep his corner small with only one person speaking to him at a time because he handpicks the people he's willing to trust to give him advice mid-fight. He will not doubt his coach for even a second and will execute his orders with flying colors. Thankfully, Tim Welch is rarely ever wrong.
First round, he's breathing way heavier than you are. Trust that overhand left when he's southpaw. Step low, use your eyes, and go right behind his ear. Starts coming in, flash your two and bring him up the middle. He's ducking, you can see it. Hey, you're the number one motherfucker, Shug. Let's go. Let's dig deep. You're in this. Touch him up.
Flexibility help there. Nice knee up the middle there from O'Malley. Left hand split open.
God has been opened up.
That's a bad cut, O'Malley.
Let's talk about heart. Aljamain Sterling crumbles in the face of adversity. After receiving an illegal knee from Petr Yan with an entire round to go in their first fight, Aljo opted to forfeit the match and leave the match results in the hands of the judges. Whether he was truly hurt or not, it is unquestionable that he was playing it up for the judges and referee. Sean O'Malley against Andrei Sukumtov broke his ankle in a freak accident, similar to what happened to Conor McGregor against Dustin Poirier in their second fight from an awkward step when planting his foot. He proceeded to continue fighting and even striking off of one leg and even won the fight and gave a post-fight interview from the canvas while groaning and wincing in pain. Against Marlon Chito Vera, Sean was struck in his peroneal nerve and lost all feeling in his leg. He continued the fight and rolled his ankle 7 whole times before being taken down and finished. Sean O'Malley's grit and will to fight is undoubtable, unlike a certain Aljamain Sterling. Potential. At 28 years of age, despite what Sean O'Malley has already accomplished, he is still a young star, barely even approaching his prime. It's only reasonable to assume that he is still improving exponentially, and if he really is still rapidly growing from being able to beat Petr Yan, even after he wins the belt, we will still only be seeing the buds of his potential. Aljamain Sterling, on the other hand, is 34. At his age, he only has so much more to grow. More so battling to maintain than improve, if not already on the decline. Aljamain Sterling recently came off a very controversial victory over Petr Yan, who is known to get better and more dominant as the rounds go on. Sean O'Malley's best round against Petr Yan was the third and final round where he cut Yan's face open with a knee. The third round, which was supposed to be Yan's best round of that fight. Sean O'Malley proved his endurance, and how Sean will perform in the 4th and 5th championship rounds is very promising. Pressure. Although Aljamain Sterling has fought in main events before, he has never quite fought on a stage quite as big as Sean O'Malley's. Sean O'Malley is approaching becoming a megastar, and has been this way for a couple of years now. This will be the first time Aljo will ever have had this many eyes on him and this many people rooting against him. It is unsure if Aljo will be able to perform under this newfound limelight. Preparation. Sean O'Malley has been studying and preparing to beat Aljamain Sterling since October 22nd, 2022. Aljo spent October 22nd, 2022 to May 6, 2023 preparing for Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo is a short, stocky, wrestling-heavy grappler. Sean O'Malley is a tall, skinny striker, two completely opposite styles and builds. Aljamain Sterling will only have had 3.5 months to prepare for Sean O'Malley, as opposed to Sean O'Malley's 10 months to prepare for Aljo. Sean stated on his YouTube podcast he has been in jiu-jitsu boot camp to prepare for Aljo since beating Petr leading up to his fight camp. Sterling has also been champion since the start of March 6, 2021, whereas Sean was not even in the rankings, never mind a contender, until December 11, 2021. Meaning Aljo has been on Sean O'Malley and his team's radar for years before Aljo even knew his name. Aljamain Sterling had previously turned down the fight against Sean O'Malley in August, claiming he needed more time to recover. Aljamain Sterling has been going through back-to-back championship fight camps non-stop and needs time to rest. Not only that, but 2 weight cuts in this short of a time span would be difficult for anyone. Aljo cuts some of the most body weight per mass in all of the UFC, save maybe one Alex Pereira. Unfortunately for Aljo, the UFC favors Sean O'Malley. Dana White openly and shamelessly disrespects Aljamain Sterling and is forcing his hand to fight Sean before he is ready. It's no secret that the UFC has recently been involved in multiple cases of faulty and dirty judging. Moving on to judging. As previously stated, Sean O'Malley is a superstar. At the end of the day, the UFC is a business and they want their best personalities to be their champions, even at the cost of foul play. If the fight ends up going to decision, even if Aljo deserves the win, Dana White, president of the UFC, will surely pull strings behind the scenes, and the UFC will give the belt to Sean O'Malley.
Judges scorecards for the scores it 29-28 Jan. David Lethaby has it 29-28 O'Malley. And Ben Bartlett scores the contest 29-28 for the winner by split decision, Sugar!
Intangibles. Aljamain Sterling is Jamaican. Abdi, Jalil, and Ayman are both Somalian. Africans absolutely despise people from the Caribbean. Jalil and Ayman are a main part of our standard UFC watch party. The energy will be in the atmosphere, and the support is for Sean O'Malley. The last time me and Ajay bought merchandise from a fighter and bet $1,000 on them, Adesanya brutally finished his longtime rival who was 3-0 over him in devastating fashion. I will be buying Sean O'Malley limited edition boxing gloves and may even purchase a tank top from his clothing brand. Me and Ajay will be betting at least $900, nearly $1,000 on Sean, when he goes against Aljamain Sterling.
History repeats itself and that's just how it goes.